Mississippi, Fraser, Winter Park are all on this side of the fire. Highway 40 comes down through here. Highway 70 on our map is right here. Now we're on this side of the fire. This is County Road 3 that goes right through here. And some of the creeks that most locals are familiar with are in this area right through here. So that's kind of where the map, or where the fire is right now. Our acreage is 10,288 acres. And then I'll go ahead and turn it over at this time to Mike Johnson, who'll give an operations brief.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mike Johnston, Deputy Ops Chief. So I'll give you an update here on the fire. A lot of similar activity as what we've been having going last couple of days. The good news is that we got some rain last night, more than we were thinking that we got, and it's keeping the fire activity pretty minimal today. Not much fire growth on the fire today. It's just kind of skunking around, just moving slightly. So it's given our folks an opportunity to make some good progress out there today. So some of the focus areas out on the fire today are on this Division Alpha along Williams Fork. We're trying to finish getting this buttoned in all the way from, let's see, up here towards the Williams Peak area. We got some containment line. We'll probably have some more containment line in this area by tomorrow. And in this area through here between Kenny Creek and Darling Creek, we're putting in some dozer line, and we'll be looking to do a little firing operation to finish tying this in and get some good control line in all the way down Darling Creek. We have a couple hot shot crews working right here around the mine portal, and they put some hand line in around that, and they're keeping the fire from impacting that, and all that's looking really, really good now. And we have some aircraft out there, a couple helicopters supporting those efforts. Further up Williams Fork towards the Denver water, they have some improvements out in that area. We had some people out there assessing those values, looking to do some point protection, and they're going to get that those protection measures in place over the next day or two. So that'll be safe if and when the fire gets up to that area. Coming around to the east side of the fire, we have folks that continuing to work here around the experimental forest, securing this control line around there if the fire was to get there. And most of that operation's pretty well complete. They just need to finish a little dozer line around that area. Additionally, we've identified some contingency lines, which I talked about yesterday. They're basically fire control lines out in front of the fire. If those become needed, we get them in place ahead of time. So these lines would be up here in this area, coming from the experimental forest road up Crooked Creek, and looking to maybe get going on some of that maybe early next week. We've also put some lines here on the map. These are these big mountains out here just south of town, and these are good natural barriers that the fire won't be able to get around, but it could squirt out in a few areas, and that's why we're looking on these areas. And we also have folks continuing to look for areas in here to put a fire lining closer and keep the fire from getting much larger if that's possible. The folks that we have out there are really working hard and doing some good work for us, and we're looking to maybe get a few more resources so we can make quicker progress on this. I think that's it for an update. I do want to really thank the public. Really good support out there, and I really appreciate the support we're getting from the communities. Firefighters appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, for that update on the fire and things that are going on the ground out there. So at this time, we're going to go ahead and open this up for questions. If you go ahead and type your question in the comment box, we do have some people there that will feed us a question. We do have Mike can come back up and answer the questions. I can perhaps answer the questions. We do have our Incident Commander, Tony DeMasters here, and two Forest Service representatives, Aaron Mayfield and Karen Chatwick. Thank you. So do we have any questions at this time? Okay, stand by for just a moment. We'll check on those.
I'll take the one on, can you define the term skunking? I apologize for using some firefighter slang per se. Basically skunking is it's just creeping, burning very slowly through the dead and down and the fine needle litter out there in the forest. It's just burning very slowly, and that's what I mean by that.
So we have a question concerning the evacuation zones or areas that are out there. Unfortunately, the sheriff is not with us here tonight. There is always, I know, talk about making sure that those evacuation areas actually make sense. So unfortunately, we're not able to quite answer that specific question that's talking about resizing the evacuation area number 2. The question is will we continue these over the weekends? Yes. Yes, we do that. We actually... Wait just a second for that radio. But yes, the question is that will we continue these over the weekends? Yes, we do continue to work through the weekend. So just like any other day, we'll do our written updates, a morning operational briefing on Facebook, and then we'll do these at 5 o'clock in the evening, both Saturday and Sunday too.
Okay, question about rain there I'll address. We do have a rain gauge up here, up Williamsport. There was 3/10 of an inch of rain up there. So that's fairly significant rain. It doesn't put the fire out, but it does slow it down for a day or two. Up in this area, there was a little over 1/10 of an inch of rain, so less rain as you go north on the fire. The north end didn't get much, but it did get some, and that's keeping the fire activity really minimal today, and it's given our folks some time to make progress on the fire and work on some of these control lines that we're putting in. So any rain certainly helps, but it doesn't put the fires out. It's firefighters that do. Thanks.
We have a question about setting up bulletin boards with fire information within the communities. And yes, that is something that we typically do. So we're in the process of doing that right now. Throughout the communities with the COVID-19 pandemic, there's been COVID information posted on these boards. We're in the process right now of posting fire information along with that COVID-19 information as well too. So they should be up, I think, tomorrow actually. I'll look at one of my information officers.
4 today, 3 more by.
Okay, we've actually set up 4 today, and then 3 more additional ones
this weekend
will be set up throughout the weekend.
And then 3 more Monday.
Okay.
Good questions, Brad. So I'm just going to guess on how much it grew today acres wise, and it'll probably be less 100 maybe tops, but somewhere in that ballpark, plus or minus. I don't expect much that way. And then more personnel, we're getting likely get some more personnel in over the weekend, and we're trading resources with the adjacent fires. So we trading back and forth with Cannon Peak and Grizzly. We're coordinating with these other fires. So as we each have priorities to address, we're prioritizing where they go and using them. And I do expect to get some more folks in. Thank you. Another good question about how the fire could get to the headquarters of the experimental station here. And there's a couple spots where the fire could work through, and it's in really rough, rugged country, but there's a gap here where there's continuous timber down here by St. Louis Peak. The bigger concerns up here, I believe it's called Bottle Pass. It's just south of Bottle Peak. This is continuous timber right through this area, and it could come down in here and impact that, as well as Fraser and some of the communities adjacent to the forest there. So that's why we're looking at all this work out here and have people out there addressing those areas. So there's some gaps there, and it can work up around this way. Just depends on the winds. So far, the winds have been out of the north pretty consistently, so low concern, but that could change in any time.
Mike, another question that's out there is generally, we've been saying that the fire is about 7 miles southwest of the community of Fraser. Where are we getting that 7-mile measurement there?
Well, with people with the right tools to do it, but each one of these squares on the map, that's about a mile. And you can kind of guesstimate that roughly. It's pretty close to that. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mike. So we have a question about air quality and if it's safe to be out biking. The best thing that you can do right at this point in time is to go to the state air quality website and check on the air quality in this particular area, the area that you're going to be recreating in. Now, we're in the process of bringing in what we call our air specialists as well. So these are individuals that actually work wildland fires. So they come into our fire area, for example, and we do set up additional monitors. And we'll be working with the state to share that information with them. But we also produce what we call a daily air quality report. And those folks I believe they came in today. So they'll get set up and rolling. And then it's one of the products that we'll produce on a daily basis too, is that air quality report.
So question about air tankers on this fire. They have been used on the fire as needed. Some down here in this area. It slows the fire's progress and buys us time to get crews in there. At this time, we aren't using any, but that could change at any point if we need to put it out there to slow the progress to allow us to move resources around to address those areas. And certainly if it starts heading back the other direction, we're going to get those air tankers out here. So lines and sprinklers near residential assets, I'll address that. So we work in coordination with the local cooperators, the fire chiefs. We've been having daily meetings with them. Some of that work they would be doing on private lands, and we would be assisting as needed, and we're in good coordination that way.
There's a question that's in reference to the closure area that's been implemented by the Forest Service. This map doesn't particularly show that closure area, but it's a closure area that covers a large part of this ground right through. Really the closure, the reasons that goes into effect are multiple. But one of the primary reasons is that if this area is not closed, then all these access roads, various access roads that are throughout the fire area, our firefighters are using those roads pretty heavily right now. So the intent, part of the intent of implementing that closure is to really keep the public out of that area so that our firefighters have the access they need to get to the places that they need to be. Now, right now that closure is in effect through the end of October, and if it's necessary, it will stay that long. But it's a little bit too early at this point in time to determine if that will stay in effect throughout the entire time frame, or if it might be reduced earlier. But we'll just have to wait and see how that goes with that.
So there was a good question about whether we're doing anything up by Bottle Pass to keep the fire from going through that area. Well, when you have fires in saddles and when they burn up out of the drainage in this fuel type, it's going to be spotting mile ahead. And there's just no way we could put a line up there that would be big enough to hold in those conditions with the continuous fuels out there. We've looked at options and we're still considering options to do something up there. Retardant's an option, but with the way the fire spots, quarter mile, half mile, even a mile at times out ahead of itself, it wouldn't be worth the damage to the resource out there to put a line in because it probably wouldn't be successful anyways. See another one up there I'll address real quick. The fire containment will stay at 3% today. We do expect to add a little bit in this area tomorrow, so we might bump it up to 5%, just not sure yet. And then in a couple days, we'll be able to add another 3-4 miles of containment line when we complete this operation through here along Williams Fork. So we'll start showing more containment over the next several days for sure. Question about spotting, keep me on the spot here. So spotting is created when the fire, it can happen in any fuel type, but timber, it happens more readily, and it's when the fire burns that canopy, it takes needles, pine cones, little sticks, and it carries it up, and the updrafts created by that heating and that convection column, and it carries it up in the air, and the more convection you have, the more updrafts, the further it can throw that spot, and the wind helps with that as well.
We do see that we're getting just a few more questions about air quality. So truly the best thing to do with air quality is to go to the State of Colorado air quality site. There's a lot of information on there. Really, you could dig into there and really become very knowledgeable with all the information that's posted there. On a regular basis, daily air quality reports are put out there. There's a process of color coding from yellow to green to red, etc. So the best place to go at this point in time is actually to the state website for air quality. You'll take that one?
Yep. So a question about spotting over the peaks that are primarily rocks. There's some light grass up there in areas. Byers Peak is right here for reference. That's referenced in the question. So with the right winds, nothing's out of the question. And I try to never say never, just because fire has a way of humbling us. Mother Nature always has the last say on these things. But I feel pretty good about these mountains here, and that's why we've put in these dashed lines here. I think those mountains would hold in those areas in most scenarios.
Mike, while you're still up there, there's a question about, well, what is this retardant stuff? What is it actually composed of, and what does it do for you as a firefighter?
I'm not necessarily a retardant expert. All I know is it's red, and it has some different phosphates in it, and I can't remember what other stuff they put in it. It's environmentally friendly in most cases, but we keep it out of waterways because there could be minimal impact. That retardant, another slang term that gets used sometimes, is slurry. It sticks to the vegetation. Water just soaks into the ground, and that's why they use retardant. It's more effective because it sticks to the vegetation and creates a little fire-resistant coating on the vegetation.
Mike, is there any retardant restriction areas within a fire predator?
Absolutely. I kind of alluded to that with the waterways. We keep it, I believe, roughly 300 feet away from the waterways, so it can't get into a stream or a creek or municipal water system. So we, our pilots that fly those retardant planes and the lead planes that show them where to drop them are always talking about those streams and making sure they put them in safe locations. They have GPS systems built into their pilot, so they can see where those are and they avoid them when they're dropping the retardant.
Thanks, Mike. I'll take the next question. The question is, has the fire reached at Lake Evelyn? Lake Evelyn is right in this area right here. You can see the perimeter of the fire is here. So the answer is no. Air miles about 2 mile distance from the edge of the fire up here in the northeast up to Lake Evelyn right here. There's a question about, is Ute Peak on our map? And yes, it is. It's located right at this location right here. So just southwest of the fire itself. Ute Peak is right here. There's a question about whether we'll be posting more pictures. Yes, indeed we will actually. We do have fire information officers that actually go out to the field and they take pictures on a daily basis. One of our goals with our pictures is really to tell the story. We probably heard that, you know, a picture tells 1,000 words. What we really like to do is the pictures that we post on today, like right now, is really showing you what is out there on the fire right now too. So you won't find us posting a picture from 5 days ago with a large column going up on a day to like today where we don't have that taking place. So a good thing to know, if you see that picture posted on social media today, that's what it actually looks like on the fire line out there today as well.
All right, here's a question about how do we determine the percentage of containment with so many factors and such varied terrain. So, you know, our firefighters out there in the overhead that's supervising the operations, you know, it's, you know, we get boots on the ground. By boots on the ground, these firefighters are patrolling that whole edge of the fire. They're mopping it up. By mopping it up, I mean they're basically putting the fire out along the edge. And once it's out up to a certain, you know, depth, and we feel comfortable that it's not going to come out of that area, there's still a chance. We're not saying it's controlled yet. Controlled means that we feel like it's not going to come out, but that area is contained when we have enough depth that we feel like it's secure to start moving onto other focus areas. And that containment's going to vary our comfort level depending on how much work goes into it. So some areas take longer to contain. Say like grass that burns really quickly and goes out really quickly, we can call that contained pretty quick. But when it's burning in these timber fuel types and it burns pretty deep into the ground, sometimes, you know, a foot or better in some cases, it takes us more time to get to that comfort level where we can call it contained.
Mike, if you'll stick around for just a second, but I'll introduce the question up here. So the question is there any chance the fire will continue to move in this direction and really maybe perhaps cross over into Summit County? So the county line's approximately here, and Summit County is over here.
So take this back off again. I think I'm feeling pretty good. I don't want to say guarantee anything. Like I said earlier, never say never, but we have a lot of people working out here, and I believe that most of this from the heel of the fire, the northwest corner here, to these campgrounds, to the portal and the mines, going to be contained maybe by mid next week. And with the people we have out there, I feel like we can hold it even if some winds come up. So I'm feeling pretty good about it, not crossing a Williams Fork and coming this way. There is always scenarios where it could get aligned and do something down in here. And this is rugged, remote country. And, you know, just can't get firefighters in here really. So there's some, you know, still chance, but a low chance because there's, again, natural barriers, mountains that it can't cross down here. So I would say, just sum it up, low probability that it's going to get there.
Hey, Mike, just for clarification too, Summit County line here is, but Summit County is also down in this area too.
Okay.
Then, Mike, there's a question up here about our firefighters. The firefighters are on duty. Are the firefighters on duty 24/7? When and how do they get breaks?
All right. We're on duty typically 16 hours a day or up to 16 hours a day. We try to give them 8 hours off the clock so they can get some good rest and recuperation so they can go back out there. It's pretty arduous work that they're doing and they need that rest. But they're basically always on call. So if they needed to work longer, they would. But we try to give them that 16 on, 8 hour off is roughly typically what we do on these fires. And then, you know, for the length of their assignments are usually 14 days. They can be 21 days. And then we give them days off. So they're away from their families for an extended period of time. But we do give them days off and good breaks.
Hi, I'm Aaron Mayville. I'm a Deputy Forest Supervisor here on the Arapahoe Roosevelt National Forests, Pawnee National Grasslands. We have a question about, are these the worst wildfires in Colorado, in my experience? I've been in Colorado about 7 or 8 years now. 2020 compares closely to 2018. If you remember, we had quite a big fire season in 2018. 2012 was another big one in 2002. So in the last kind of 20 years, those are the kind of milestone years that we've seen in the state. This year, it's hard to tell because the year's not quite done yet. But as far as our energy release components, kind of dryness levels, drought monitoring and things, it's definitely an uptick this year. So we'll see by the end of the year. We do know that the fire out west near Grand Junction, the Pine Gulch fire, is starting to reach some big numbers there too. So we'll see by the end of the year.
So there's probably the last question that we'll be able to take, but again, unfortunately the sheriff's not here, but I'll attempt to address this question about evacuation. So if we had the additional layer of evacuation layers that we could put over this map, you'd see that different zones are broken out through the different area. Now, for example, the way that works, if the fire were moving, if it were to move in this direction, for example, and start to impact an area up in here, the sheriff, in working in course coordination with our operations people, would implement evacuation actually. So that would move to an evacuation stage, and that could trigger some of the other areas around it to move into a pre-evacuation stage too. So there's information out there on the county websites that you can look into and find out a lot more information about the evacuation plans. There is the code red notification that you can sign up for as well. And of course, that gives you a pre-notification, or about probably the quickest notification you can get if indeed an evacuation is taking place.
All right, good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Tony Masters. I'm the incident commander, and I just want to kind of close out the evening with your appreciation for getting into the chat room and asking those great questions. And so that's the interactiveness between the incident management team and you, and so it's greatly appreciated. So I just would like to close out that again, for the fire itself, we're at 3% contained, and we're looking for more